Let us move to the sun. Locate ourselves on that immense orb. At a distance of 95 million miles, there is a ball, reflecting back the light which is thrown upon it. This ball receives an impulse, and would, under the action of this force, continue on in a straight line. But the attractive power of the sun seizes it, and lo, a planet is sweeping in its orbit around to its original position. Has its velocity diminished? Has there been any change in its motion? No. With the same velocity with which it set out, it reaches its starting point and onward moves again. Now, let us suppose, if it were possible, that we could place golden rings in the path of this moving object, of such a diameter that it might pass through with not a solitary hair's breadth to spare. Such is the beauty and perfection of this motion, that this solitary planet, from century to century, from age to age, would pass uniformly through these golden rings without a single shadow of variation from its first motion. But stay. While this planet is revolving in the distance, we see another dim, small globe with its dim and diminished light, commencing its motion, subordinate and in control of its central body. A satellite, the moon, with its Earth orbiting now, swinging around. But alas, that perfect accuracy, the original motion of that planet, is now destroyed forever. It no longer passes through these golden loops. No. When the moon passes between the Earth and the sun, it adds its attraction to that of the sun and draws the Earth closer. As the moon circles around the opposite side, it pulls the Earth farther from its orbit, and thus we find oscillations backward and forward, perturbations, disturbances. Add now to this system two interior primary planets, Mercury, Venus. Add Mars on the outside. Add these 7 asteroids now rotating, revolving in between Mars and Jupiter. Add Jupiter and his 4 moons. Saturn with his mighty orb of 79,000 miles in diameter. His moons, his rings. Go further out until you reach Uranus. Step out even further to the boundaries of the known solar system and bring in that mysterious, wonderful body known as the planet Neptune. Let each one of these act upon one another. Add them all together. And then is it possible? Is it possible for the human mind to grasp the laws which hold these bodies in their orbits? Can it roll back the tide of time and tell you that 1,000 years ago, such and such were the configurations of these planets and their satellites? Further still, can it draw back the veil of the future and tell you that 1,000 years hence, such and such will be the configuration? Yes, even this has been accomplished. But we have not exhausted the problem of our system even yet. While the planets are circular in their orbits, and their satellites nearly so, we find dim, mysterious bodies wandering through the uttermost regions of space. We see them coming closer and closer. And as they approach our system, they fling their mighty banners and wing their lightning courses around the sun and speed off to the remotest limits of vacuity. These eccentric bodies, these comets, belong to our system. They are part and parcel of the whole, and they must be taken into account when resolving the problem of our universe. But to what distance do they recede from our sun? When we remember that the periodic time of the closest, the farthest, the most distant of our planets, Neptune, is but 165 years, and that some of these comets, the period is not less than 3,000 or 4,000 years, to what immense distance must they travel? Must they recede from our sun? Now, retaining in your minds the fact that I have stated, when we remember every particle of matter attracts every other particle. And if these comets, in sweeping out to this immense distance, fall under the influence of another sun, they are gone from us. They are lost to us forever. Is it not possible then that there are other systems which do not interfere with our own or with each other? Is space so boundless? Is the universe so unlimited that there is room for more than one of these mighty systems? You can see thus the scale upon which our solar system was created, and you can begin to appreciate the nature of the problem of the universe, which has been so far solved. But there are other objects than planets and comets filling the heavens. Look out upon the millions of stars in their constellations. Trace out that mysterious and curiously wrought band that stretches from one verge of the sky to the other, the Milky Way. Surely these stars are clustered closely together. They cannot be as separated from each other by space as they appear to be separated from us. Let us try to determine that space by means of triangulation, which is the only means available to the earthbound astronomer. We locate two observers, 8,000 miles apart, opposite ends of the Earth. From these 2 points, they direct their visual rays to yonder orb. But alas, those lines are parallel. The astronomer is foiled. He can find no point whose distance he can estimate. What is to be done? We make the Earth a grand traveling observatory. We use the entire diameter of the orbit of the Earth. And at the end of 6 long months, when the Earth has traveled halfway around the sun, he sends up his visual ray again, now with a base of 200 million miles. Surely the angle of the vertex of this immense triangle will reveal the distance. But alas, it is insensible. And if it be sensible at all, it only brings the nearest of these stars to no nearer than 60 trillion miles. Is it possible? Is there a danger of these comets rushing into these neighboring suns? I think not. Now, let us contemplate the scene by which we are surrounded. Yonder shines Orion with his broad and beautiful belt, and yonder the northern bear. Let's go with me for a moment to that beautiful star in the heavens, Vega. From that point, look out. And what do you behold? Is there any change? Surely there is a different heavens. No. Yonder is old Orion's belt, gleaming with the same beautiful stars, in the same order as before. All the change is no more than would be made by the change of position with your neighbor on this planet. But is there no limit? No end? Let me take you to the nearest fixed star. And having gained this, we are unable to go on to the next, outward and outward, even to 500 successive objects. Then sweep round with this immense line as a radius. The entire circuit is filled with suns and systems that roll and burn and shine as does our own. Having gone this far, it might seem we are on the uttermost limits of space, and that the human mind can finally rest its weary wings. Not so. We are barely at the outskirts of a little island of the universe. A small compass, condensed and united, so that if even we were at these extreme limits, where we should grasp the whole, all of its suns, and all of its stars and systems, as it were, in our hands. Once we had attained these limits, and then applied the powers of a telescope beyond, we find objects coming up from the deep distance and bursting upon the sight, filling the mind with wonder and astonishment. Put your eye to this instrument and tell me what breaks in upon your vision. I see a most beautiful sight. Millions of diamond points scattered in the blue heavens. How strange is that other particular object? Shall I tell you what it is? Go with me. Onward. Onward. See it expanding, increasing. See the diamond points in it. Brilliant, lit with splendor and brilliance. As we near this object, it increases in size. It fills the whole visible universe because it is nothing less than a galaxy of stars. And now look back. What have we left behind? Can we see our sun in its mighty galaxy? I see nothing but a dim stain, a nebulous haze. And that is the mighty galaxy we left. And this is but one, and the nearest of all of them. Go any direction, and you'll find not tens, not hundreds, but thousands, reaching into the vastness of space. It is the business of the astronomer not only to study his own system, but to contemplate the millions of stars and go still farther out to those mysterious nebulous objects with which the heavens are filled, and tell if, in the long lapse of ages, some mighty change might not be working on these curious, mysterious objects. But I have nearly exhausted the allotted time, and I thank you for it.
Speech is an edited version of a speech that Mitchell gave at the Broadway Tabernacle in New York City on December the 1st, 1847. It's his words, just cut down a bit for